Wow, this reading project is a lot of fun, but sadly it is time to wrap it all up. What's up guys, and welcome back to the channel. You're with Chris, and today I'll be wrapping up week 4 of Horror Mayhem. Now this week the prompt was all about contemporary horror, which could be defined as anything in the horror genre written post 2000. Now considering 24 years have gone by, it leaves it open to a lot of scope and a lot of material to draw upon to inspire reading for this week. Now unfortunately this week I did run out of time a little bit. I didn't have a lot of time on my hands. It was pretty hectic. I managed to get one collection read, and that was You Like It Darker by Mr. Stephen King. Now I ended up reviewing this one separately on the channel. If you haven't caught that review, please do, because I go into a bit of detail about 8 of the stories in particular which left a lasting impression on me. So I go through what I liked about each of those stories and what really worked. Now with this collection there were a couple of stories that didn't quite do it for me. The writing was good, but the themes and the actual stories themselves didn't quite gel with me, but that's fine. I mean, overall, it was a very, very strong collection, and one story in particular, which was my favourite of the whole collection, is Danny Coughlin's Bad Dream, where it was about a janitor of a high school, rings in an anonymous tip about a crime that's been committed, and the Kansas state investigator assigned to the case goes after the janitor because he believes he's done it despite evidence to the contrary. So all through the story it was a cat and mouse game between the janitor and the state investigator, and you know, it was a police procedural kind of story, which some Stephen King fans don't like. I like that aspect of his writing myself, and I had an absolute blast with it because it was so compelling at how the janitor was fighting to prove his innocence throughout the whole ordeal. It was just absolutely fantastic. So I only got one collection read, but it was a fantastic collection, and pretty much started it as soon as I got it. Now as for what I didn't read, look, I still want to read Darcy Coates' collection, and I still want to read the 4 novellas from Ronald Malfi as well. I had optimistic plans to read through all those, but it just didn't come to pass. So what I'll be doing is hopefully getting to those eventually in July, because June is a very, very hectic month for reading for me. I've got a lot on my plate, and the video I released just last week about my June reading possibilities, that's all just been blown out of the water with another idea I have for June, which I'll put out a separate video on that to let you know all what's going on. I've actually got a fair bit of reading ahead of me to make this self-imposed deadline, and I plan on doing just that. So I really enjoyed being a part of this project for the 3rd time. It's very humbling to be one of the co-hosts for this project, created originally by the Bookish Bryants. Now unfortunately Scott had some health issues throughout this, and all of our thoughts went out to Scott and Becky, and we wish Scott a very speedy recovery. And unfortunately they weren't able to take part this time, which was a shame, but obviously with health and things like that, that has to take priority. So to Scott and Becky, thank you very much for creating this project. I think I speak for all of us when I say that we've had an absolute ball with it. There's been some awesome content produced for the project, and I do want to acknowledge each and every one of the co-hosts for this project. So we actually have Ollie over at Criminolly. We have Gareth over at Book Songs and Other Magic, Michael K. Vaughan, Sean D. Standfast, and Greg over at Another Bibliophile Reads. We have Book Blather, we have An Autistic Reader, we have Big Hard Books, Mindy's Book Journey, Jim Reads Too Slow, Ian Porter, Steve Donahue, Bad Rad, Literate Texan, and we have The Rambling Raconteur, and we have MJ. So all great co-hosts, all produced great content throughout the project. It was just a fantastic event, and I look forward to doing it for the 4th time next year. Unfortunately, I won't be participating in June on the Range because I've got other things planned, but that will certainly be for next year. And one final thing I want to close out on, we did have the bingo score sheet. So the object of this score sheet was to tick off as many themes and prompts as you can which were thought up for the project. So I'll just go through them one at a time, and then I'll reveal my fairly disappointing score. We have Universal Monsters, graphic novels, comics, alternative media. We have cult horror, indie horror, personal horror and phobias, haunted house, possession, religious horror, body horror, slasher, killer animals, horror adjacent, cross genres that blend together. We have translated horror, diverse authors, kidnappings, psychological horror, extreme horror, one for PAX, which was a green cover, cozy horror, non-fiction or based on a true story, cannibalism, apocalyptic or post-apocalyptic, elemental or environmental, folk horror, ghosts, witches, cryptids, cosmic horror, home invasions, aliens, curses, dolls, clowns, holiday horror, evil children and technological horror. Now, unfortunately, I wanted to get as many of these ticked off as I could. Unfortunately, I only managed to get 12 out of 36, so that was a third of them. Okay, so the ones I got were for alternate media, where I watched the movies for a couple of the books. I had Haunted House, Possession, horror adjacent, psychological horror, cozy horror, folk horror, ghost, cosmic horror, aliens, clowns and evil children, which was a very, very easy one because I did read Children of the Corn, which was a fantastic story. I think a highlight for the project for me was Movie Week, where I chose to read Poltergeist and Poltergeist 2, The Other Side, because they are two of my favourite movies, horror movies of all time. And I was very curious to find out how the books differ from the movies, and I was pleasantly surprised because there was so much content in the books that didn't make it into the movies. And I put that down to whoever the writer was, in this case James Caan. It depends what kind of what script he received before it made it to the theatres. So it could have been an earlier script, but it included things that I had no idea of previously. Absolutely none. I really enjoyed the fact that you could get into the characters' heads, because you cannot do that in movies. It's all external stimuli. You don't know what Carol Ann's thinking, or you don't know what Steve or Diane are thinking, and Robbie, and there was just so many other scenes in there that I relished because I was ignorant to this. And I think that was probably my favourite week of the whole project, and I had an absolute blast. But it's sad that it's over for another year. I am looking forward to participating again next year, and I'm very excited to think about what the prompts might be or what the weekly themes might be, because that's always the best part, the anticipation of what kind of themes are we going to be reading about. It's always very exciting. But guys, that is it for Horror Mayhem 2024. Had an absolute blast. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Offer up any comments below as per usual. I'll try and deliver the best content I can. But until the next video, guys, happy reading.